basic beanie video, and this video is going to be how to decrease for the crown. First, we need to make sure that we have the correct length, the desired length. This is going to be for a young adult or a child. If it's a little bit long, they can turn the cuff up. 17 centimeters, just over 6.5, almost 6 3/4 inches. I have 3 stitch markers ready. The first stitch marker I'm going to place on the previous row, and this is going to help guide me when I'm sewing up the beanie. Very nice stitch markers. I do it on both sides. Just the previous row, so that they both match each other. When I join the beanie, I'll be using those. I have a third stitch marker, and this stitch marker is going to mark the right side or the outside of the beanie. I need to look at my edges, and this is my one stitch here, and that is going to be on the outside of my beanie as I sew it to this side here, which has 2 stitches facing outwards. So I can put it anywhere, it doesn't really matter, just place it somewhere. It'll be a guide for me. I'm decreasing. It's going to be a dramatic decrease, radical decrease. This edge stitch here is not part of a set, but these two are. So 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits. So the 2 purls I'll be pulling together, the 2 knits I'll be knitting together, the 2 purls I'll be knitting together right to the end of the row. Just my camera. Okay, a little bit higher. Here we go. I knit the first stitch. Now pull the next 2 together. Knit the next 2 together. I give it a little tug after each decrease, just to pick up any slack that might be there. The slack is here in between. I don't want a loop to form there because it'll gape. So for instance, if I leave it like that, there's a little bit of a loop and that'll gape, so I just give it a bit of a tug. And I do that all the way across the row. There are 97 stitches, and this is a 5mm circular needle. I should say a pair of needles on a circular, and it's an average DK double knit yarn. It's not too thin, it's not too thick, as some double knits can lie on the extremes. I think it's an acrylic. I found it in a pile of yarns that didn't have labels on. So it could be pure acrylic or it could be a mix. I'm giving it a little tug. It doesn't really matter which side you decrease on, whether it's the wrong or the right, because this particular row, as you can see, is reversible. It's the next row of decrease that's important. I've worked all the way to the end and have knitted those two last stitches together. I'm now turning the work, and this will be a row without any decreases, respecting the way the stitches are lying. So that's a purl, that's a knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and working across the row, giving it a little tug each time between the stitches. Keep the tension going, otherwise the crown is going to be loose. Previous row I made a little bit of a mess there. Let me just pick that one up. I found this yarn it doesn't keep its twist. It's very easy to unravel. So the plies separate, and sometimes the needle slips in between the plies of the yarn. Coming to the end of the row, which there wasn't any kind of decrease, and the last stitch is a purl, and I'm turning it over. Let's adjust the camera again. I wonder if it's actually sliding a little bit, the camera. This is another row of decrease. Now I'm seeing where my stitch marker is to show me the outside of the work. I'm also guided by the first stitch. That's also the outside. Sometimes it can be easy to get confused because, as you can see, it's knit, purl, knit, purl. So now that stitch marker there is guiding me. So what I need now, if we look at the other hat, the outside of the work is going to be stocking. So what I need to do is I need to decrease in stocking stitch. The first stitch I will just leave. I'm knitting that because that's my edge. But I'm going to twist this one here, and I'm going to knit those two together. Actually, I don't like that very much. I prefer my purl to be tucked underneath, so let me do it this way here. Sometimes I decrease from the other side, sometimes I decrease from this side. So you're going to get annoyed because I have to actually move my purl stitch each time. I don't want to decrease with the twist of my purl. So I'm opening my purl up, as you can see here. I'm putting my knit stitch back on, and then I'm knitting. So I slip my knit, I untwist my purl, just because of the way I knit. Some people, they'll have their stitches beautifully aligned and they can just decrease right across without having to do what I'm doing right now. It looks fiddly, but I'm used to it. Giving it that little tug so it doesn't gape, as I want my crown to be knitted under tension. So you're working across and you're basically knitting two stitches together. The purl stitch is going to be tucked underneath the knit stitch. Come to the last stitch, knit. As you can see, I had 2 here. They've now disappeared into 1. And that's why that stitch marker is so important, because I'll be lining them up later on to make sure my rows are matched up. I'm on the wrong side of the work, and the work is presenting as a row of pearls, and so that's what I'll be doing. I'll be purling them with no decrease, keeping it under tension because I want my crown to not gape. And this will be my last row of decrease. Going to knit 2 together. Knit 2 together, that's how they're presenting. There's no pearls here. And this is the right side of my work. Knit 2 together, giving it a little tiny tug each time. Pick up the slack between the decreases. You can hear a little bit how they're struggling on the needle. Last one, just knitted. So there are my stitches. Let's see how 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. What I do here is I check my tail that I started with. It's not very long, so I need to have a fair amount of yarn to sew up my beanie. I'm going to take half an arm. Should be a little bit more generous. 3/4 of an arm. It's always better to have a little bit more than to run out. I am going to put this on a darning needle, and I'm going to go across to that side. So because I'm going to that side, I need to slip my work all the way across. Put this onto a darning needle that's not sharp, because I don't want to break any of the stitches. I want this to slide nicely through. So it's a blunt darning needle. I want it to slide nicely through all these stitches. I literally just slip and pick them off at the same time. There we go. Put the needle aside. As you can see, it's formed a loop. I close that loop and I go through all the stitches again. Close the loop. And I run this through all the stitches again. Go to the other side where my yarn is. If you go back, you can undo all your work. So you must go in the must make sure you go in the correct direction. There we go. And if you want to, you can even do it again. Especially if you want to sew a pom-pom on here, then it's quite nice to have a good base to attach that pom-pom to. I do not sew the pom-pom on with this yarn. This yarn is going to be sewing them closed. So as you can see, I have my two markers. The next video I'll show how to sew this up in the basic beanie playlist, you can find that. Thank you very much for watching.